And other objects inside of the tram at all times, and please remain seated while the tram is in motion. This is a no smoking, no eating tour, but drinks are allowed as long as they have a secure lid. Now if you could please take note of the letter that's on the outside of your row. You need to return to this exact same row after each stop on the tour. This tour is scheduled to last about an hour long or 60 minutes, and a restroom will not be readily available until 45 minutes into the tour. So if this is a problem, you can exit to the right side of the tram now and you can possibly take another tour. If you have a child who is under the age of 4, they need to be seated in the lap of an adult. And any child whose feet do not completely reach the floor need to be seated in the middle between two adults, because once again, safety is very important to us here. Once again, my name is Nikki and our driver's name is Ray, and we'll be departing as soon as you're clear, Ray.
Sure.
Welcome to NASA's Johnson Space Center, one of 10 NASA field centers, and the heart of human spaceflight operations for the past 50 years. It is here that history has been made, and will continue on as the men and women of NASA push the boundaries of exploration.
You are now leaving the museum and entering the Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center, the home of human spaceflight and home to the thousands of dedicated men and women who work here. This isn't an exhibit or a theme park, this is the real thing. I'm Gene Cernan, an Apollo astronaut, and it is with great pride and pleasure that I welcome you on this tour. What makes the Johnson Space Center special is that the elite men and women who go into space work and train here. What makes us successful is the team of the astronauts and the people who support them. From the largest indoor underwater training facility in the world to the operation of the largest orbiting science laboratory in the International Space Station, Johnson Space Center has always been on the leading edge of discovery and innovation. I was the last man to have ever set foot on the moon, but not for long. Right here and right now, the men and women of JSC are working on a new generation of spacecraft for human spaceflight. It is indeed an exciting time to be here. On this tour, you will share and experience the spirit and the history that is the Johnson Space Center. Welcome.
Did you ever wonder what the Johnson Space Center looked like back in the 1960s? Before the center was built, it was a pasture for cattle. You'll notice some longhorn cattle to your left as we enter the JSC grounds. This area is now used as an educational opportunity for students learning about agriculture and farming.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
John F. Kennedy gave his rousing speech at Houston's own Rice University in 1961. Rice provided 1,000 acres to the new NASA Center, land that had been donated to the university by Humble Oil Company, now ExxonMobil. Additional land, just over 600 acres along what is now NASA Parkway, was bought for $1.4 million. JSC was built to look like a college campus, to encourage a spirit of collaboration and innovation, a tradition that continues today. We're now approaching Rocket Park. We'll take a closer look at the rockets on the way back. Why do we willingly take the risks and make the economic investment to fly in space? Astronaut Katie Coleman offers some answers.
Humans have always had a basic inborn need to learn, to understand, and to explore. Now, we look to space, beyond our Earth, to other worlds, and maybe eventually to other star systems. If we follow our need to learn and discover, and if we continue to provide the inspiration, motivation, and opportunities that space exploration offers the world's youth, our advances during the coming 500 years could surpass those of the past 500 many times over.
Ahead on your right is Building 17, home of Orion, the flagship of our nation's next-generation space fleet. Astronauts will ride Orion far beyond low Earth orbit, on deep space missions to asteroids and to Mars. The Orion Project Office is leading this historic development effort from here in Houston, making the Johnson Space Center responsible for the Orion crew module, crew training, and mock-up facilities, as well as mission control. This building also houses the Space Food Systems Laboratory, where food scientists develop and process food for space flights. Most food is made from scratch and then freeze-dried and thermo-stabilized. Since there is no cold storage for food on the station, these scientists have developed more than 100 foods that meet nutrition and palatability requirements and can be stored up to 3 years at room temperature. If you look off to your left across the field, you can see the vertical testbed flight complex where the Morpheus lander performed some of its early hot fire and tethered flight testing. NASA's Morpheus project is developed and tested a prototype planetary lander capable of vertical takeoff and landing, a full-scale vehicle sized to carry an 1,100-pound payload, such as a humanoid robot or a rover, to the surface of an asteroid or the moon. Also on your left is Building 20, which is among the first of a new generation of energy-efficient government buildings. Building 20 is distinguished as the first LEED Platinum building at the Johnson Space Center. This building uses 55% less energy than a comparable office building. It was completed using materials that included nearly 30% recycled content. Its many green features include rooftop solar collectors which heat water, and motion sensors that will automatically turn on and off office lighting. Ahead and on your right, you'll see a large gray building. The Space Environment Simulation Laboratory houses 2 very large vacuum chambers, both of which are National Historic Landmarks. The larger chamber, Chamber A, is used to test spacecraft. Chamber B is used to test spacesuits. Next to that, you'll see some large gas storage tanks which hold liquid nitrogen kept at 320 degrees below zero. The nitrogen is pumped into a vacuum chamber and used to simulate the cold, harsh atmosphere of space, so engineers can test the tolerance of spacecraft and equipment. International Space Station astronaut Sunny Williams knew the chill of space firsthand. While living aboard the space station, she performed 7 spacewalks.
On my first spacewalk, we were required to work on the solar array on the very top of the space station. We were there actually for an entire night now. Initially I was cold, but by the end of the 45 minutes, I was really cold. Probably the coldest I've ever been in my entire life.
Space is also completely silent because sound waves don't carry vacuum. Or do they? Outside of the station, for 9 spacewalks, astronaut Mike Fink was able to feel sounds. Sound will not travel through the vacuum of space. Every time we use our electric drill driver, we can feel the vibrations through our suit as sound. Every time we would make an electrical or fluid connection, we could actually hear the click. Only if we were actually touching things could we hear. We're now approaching the Space Vehicle Mock-Up Facility, featuring full-size models of spacecraft. Inside, you'll learn how the extensive training astronauts do here prepares them to do their jobs in space.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take one last look at that row letter that you're sitting in. You need to return to this exact same row after we come back. If you could please remain seated until the tram has come to a full and complete stop. And once it has, you can exit to the right side of the tram and the right side only.